I'm Ben Ryman, and this is Behavior Speak. This conversation explores the development of the first graduate-level Applied Behaviour Analysis program at a historically black college and university, Florida A&M. This discussion highlights the importance of HBCUs in addressing the educational needs of African American students, the collaborative efforts of faculty and community members, and the program's commitment to inclusivity and cultural perspectives in behavior analysis. The team emphasizes the significance of practicum partnerships, research opportunities, and support for international students, aiming to create a diverse and accessible ABA program that meets the needs of underrepresented communities. Welcome, everybody, to Behavior Speak.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, thanks.
Hello.
Right on. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge I am producing this podcast on the territories of the Klamath, Klehusumoko, Comox, and Sechelt First Nations. And as always, I'm grateful to be here. So let's start by some introductions. We got at least one returning guest here, Adrian Bradley, and a bunch of new faces. Let me start up on the top left with Dr. Crump, and tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hey, so I'm Sherilyn Crump. I have been in the field of behavior change now for 30 plus years. And as you know, when it comes to behavior, there's been such a journey and a transition. And I'm primarily now focusing on higher ed and OBM and looking at training future behavior practitioners and looking at the OBM system to make sure that we're all consistent and congruent. And I'm just really honored to be able to hold space for future practitioners and for our universities.
Amazing. Thank you. And Nico?
All right. Greetings, everyone. I'm Dr. Nico Slater Sarah. I'm faculty at Florida A&M University and the program coordinator for the program in Applied Behaviour Analysis. I've been teaching at Florida A&M University for over 15 years, and my areas of specialty are around culture. I'm excited about the transition into establishing the program in ABA, and I'm excited to be a part of this very fabulous team.
Amazing. Adrian?
Hey, everyone. I'm Adrian Bradley. I am currently working in the field at ABA Centers of America with the regional clinical director. But my goal on this project is I've actually been teaching at Wayne State University for the last almost 7 years. So I'm helping out developing the BC ABA coursework, an accreditation process with FAMU. And I am really excited to be able to bring this to more students and have behavior analysis, the science, be accessible and working with this great team.
Amazing. And Tia?
I am Tia Glover. I'm a regional administrator for Deborah. I guess I can say I'm the person who kind of envisioned this and brought it to life. And then these three lovely ladies eagerly jumped on to help. And since then, we started about 4 years ago. That train's been moving slowly, but surely it's been moving. I am a graduate of Florida A&M University, so that is why I went to my university first to be the first HBCU or historically black college and university that has a master's and an undergraduate program in applied behavior analysis. I think when I brought it to FAMU, they were willing to listen, and I was willing to give them the feedback and the details of the need for more black clinicians in the field to help serve the population that we serve.
Yeah, right on. Okay, cool. So we're talking about the first graduate level ABA program at an HBCU. So maybe we could start for some of the listeners about digging in a bit to sort of what it means, what a historically black college and university is. What is an HBCU? Why do they exist? And sort of what's kind of a bit of the history there?
I'll let Dr. Slater take that one.
HBCU is a college or university that was founded specifically to address the needs of African American students. And so it is typically, I believe they were founded in the 1860s, because there were a lack of institutions that one accepted African American students, but also addressed the needs of Black folks and the Black community. So we have the term HBCU, which is historically Black college or university, just which means that the college was founded as a Black institution, and it is carrying that history as a part of its continued growth and progression. There are hundreds of HBCUs, I believe 300 or 400 HBCUs across the United States. I hope I'm not overstating that number, but the HBCUs tend to be organized around the tradition of the community, tradition of Black folks, and ultimately the goal of the HBCU is to address the needs of Black folks. So there's some universities specialize in different areas of research and education. It operates just as any other university would, with emphasis on research, publication, fields in STEM, all of that. And sometimes HBCUs are funded by the state. Sometimes they're private universities. So we have, of course, Florida A&M University is the best HBCU in all the land. And second to Florida A&M, we might have schools like Howard University, Spelman is an HBCU, Southern University. We have schools in Mississippi, Texas, all over.
Amazing. And tell me a little bit about Florida A&M and sort of its history and why it's the best.
Right. So if we think about FAMU was founded in 1887, and I'll look to Tia to help me a little bit with the history because I'm not sure, but it was founded in 1887, and it was founded as a state normal school for African Americans. And the idea for Florida A&M University is the same as all other schools. It was to serve the needs of Black folks. So it's hard and a little biased for Black folks entering into universities. So it opened as a public land grant institution, and that means that they were working on agriculture, which is a part of the name Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. So the agriculture piece was a very important part of the mission of FAMU. And one unique component of FAMU was that the land itself was inundated by rattlers or rattler snakes. And because the land was inundated by rattler snakes, that's why FAMU was given this property to use, and that's why the name Rattlers came about.
Do you have a credential with the International Behavior Analysis Organization, the Qualified Applied Behavior Analysis Credentialing Board, the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, or would like a certificate of attendance for another organization? You can earn continuing education units by going to www.behaviorspeak.com, clicking on CEUs, and entering the 3 secret words. The first secret word is Savannah, SAVANNAH.
And FAMU has won several awards and is also listed as one of the top 100 HBCUs, one of the top 100 colleges in the world, and we're trying to get even higher.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank you. And Tia, you kind of alluded to already that sort of the reason that we're looking at kind of having this program there is because it's your alma mater. So was there any other reason for choosing FAMU beyond you went there and you thought better start with the school that you went to?
No. I was going to start with the school. Obviously, it was who would take the time to really listen to my pitch. And I was like, okay, since I went to FAMU, I'll start there. And I think that probably was the best decision I made. So
Yeah.
And if we were, in all honesty, FAMU is always the first in a lot of things. So if this program was going to come to fruition and be one of the first ABA programs on the master's and undergraduate level, I'm definitely going to my alma mater first so we can just add another accolade up under our belt.
I love that.
Yeah. And to add to Tia's point, and we'll get into how this all came about too, but FAMU was the first one to say yes. There was another group of individuals who had been working behind the scenes, not knowing Tia was also working to develop this as well. But FAMU, and in connection with Tia, they were the only ones to say yes to adding this program, and really saw not only Tia's vision, but the broader vision of what can happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now, especially in the foundation of behavior analysis and really bringing that. So I think with Tia's vision and then, being able to join the team, it was a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, it seems another sort of maybe more of a coincidence, though, is I guess that Florida is also kind of one of the early, I guess, adopters of certification and sort of everything kind of related to behavior analyst certification. And so it seems like a great state to do that. So Tia, maybe we could start with the vision. Where did this vision kind of come from, and kind of tell me about those days.
Ben, can I add something?
Yeah, please.
Before you go on, I just wanted to say that in addition to Tia's vision and coming to make the pitch to FAMU faculty, it was our department chair, Dr. Jermaine Robertson, who answered the call and has stood steadfast in pushing the agenda of this program. So we want to make sure that we acknowledge the chair of psychology department, Jermaine Robertson, and the support of our dean, which is in the College of Social Science, Arts, and Humanities, Dean Matthews.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nico. Great.
I want to make sure I touch on what Nico said too. This year, we ranked the highest rated public HBCU in 2025.
Amazing.
So, and then we were rated number 1 for online programs, highest program HBCU. So I think that's what she was referring to earlier. But to answer your question, how it came was honestly, I just remember the day I was sitting in my office. Again, I hadn't met Adrienne yet to even collaborate with her on that. But I was sitting in my office and I had a mentor within my organization. And I was talking to her just about the need of what it looked like. And, in all honesty, we see these Black and brown individuals being served by white clinicians. And sometimes there were issues. I think what happened was I was covering for a BCBA and I only do it on my contract work. And the BCBA put disrobing as the client's behavior and that a behavior that they wanted to target. And in reality, the client was just sagging his pants. And I'm like, there's a cultural gap here. So
Wow.
I was sitting in my office talking to her about that. And then I initially started with someone in my organization to kind of help me put together a PowerPoint. And I had all these data, all these statistics, like what would it look like? How much, income they could obviously bring into the organization. One of the key indicators, which FAMU, Dr. Slater and Dr. Robertson are really key on, is how much money their students can make immediately after graduating. So really honing into that. So what happened was I reached out via email. Again, I hadn't met Adrienne at this time. Reached out via email, had the support at the time of my mentor, Dr. Yvette Jackson, and then also at the time, my chief medical officer, Dr. Yolanda Graham, and they were just like my little cheerleaders there because I was a little nervous. And so I reached out. Dr. Robertson emailed me immediately back, and we had a meeting and where I presented all this information to Dr. Robertson, and I could probably say I probably got through about 50% of my slides, and Dr. Robertson was already on. He's the kind of person, he just tell me what you need and I'll make it happen. And so that's exactly what happened. And so after that, kind of going into it, met Adrienne, finding out she's working in the back ends on the same thing, but she's not having any breakthrough with the HBCUs that she's reaching out to. So I'm like, well, let's just not do double work. Let's work together. So we decided to work together. And that's when Adrienne brought in Dr. Robertson brought in Dr. Slater. And so we just, since then, we've been a pretty well-oiled machine, making sure, again, we have the issues with normal HBCUs, the lack of resources and things like that. So obviously it takes a little time, but since then we've been a well-oiled machine, been working on this about 3 years now.
Well, I was going to ask, when did you send that first email?
But yeah, it definitely was 3 years ago. And it might be 4. Is it 4, Adrienne? Okay. I think we're on 4 years. Yeah. It just, because you send the email, he was ready to go. Me and Adrienne, we're getting into it, but it starts to kind of take a little bit of time to kind of get the ball rolling on certain things. So
Yes. So I think this is where I come in. Adrienne, Tia, I don't know. It may have been Adrienne that reached out to me. And some key points where I missed with my bio when I introduced myself. I have been VCS coordinator, so verified course sequence coordinator with ABAI and BACB, and also academic program director for a program. And I grew the program to a huge number 1 in the world as far as when it comes to future practitioners. So over 2,400 students, not a lot of resources, not a lot of faculty. So I had to find creative ways to be able to build a program and to ensure that we had to increase the pass rate. So with that, I was in the middle of trying to figure all of this out. And Fortunately, I was able to be successful and to really build a nice program. So with that being said, I believe it was Adrian. I believe you reached
It
out
was.
to me. You may want to speak on that if you can, but
Yeah.
with you being a Black woman and being able, there's not many of us that have this skill set. I'm very humbled and gracious to be able to have the skill set and to have the accreditations behind me as far as being able to be an associate professor at a university and to be able to execute when it comes to curriculum content and understand what is needed for the to be able to teach students with task lists. Oh, Adrian, would you like to speak on that?
Yeah.
Why you pulled me in on this?
Yeah. And so I think specifically, if anybody knows me, I'm a really strategic networker and connector of resources. And so I don't necessarily think like, oh, this month I want to do this month I want to do that. I'm thinking years in advance and I'm thinking, who and what do we need right now to achieve what we want to achieve a year or two or three or five in advance. And so I think it was, everybody knows this VCS listserv. Okay, there is a VCS listserv with all the universities that are VCS accredited, and there's an email chain and a Facebook group, and that listserv can get a little hot sometimes. And so I think one day I was on that listserv or in that Facebook group, and I saw Dr. Crump, and I always make it a point and a value that I want to know every Black and African American BCBA who is anywhere, and what they're doing and making sure that I'm like, okay, let me note that. And so I think I noted that with Dr. Crump. And I was like, oh, we're going to need you on an advisory board. It might not need you right now, but I'm going to need you, 3-5 years from now. And so she was able to join an advisory board um, along with some other individuals. And so when we started talking about study groups and we started talking about accessibility within the universities and really disseminating our science to Black and Brown individuals, my immediate thought was that I need Dr. Crump not only to be my friend, but a mentor and a colleague in order to push some of these initiatives forward. And she was really the only one at the time that I knew of that had done this on such a scale. And now we of course have Dr. Denise Ross, we have Dr. Paula Danaqua-Broby, and many other individuals, Dr. Jamila Watson, who also work in this space, who I've all been able to connect with. Because to Dr. Crump's point, we don't have many, less than 5 individuals compared to the majority who have the experience in the development of a program and all the nuances that come into play with that look like us on this call and who look like the individuals that we're looking to serve and access behavior and the science of behavior analysis.
Yeah, and part of the challenge, there is a different language. There is, when it comes to ABA, the world of ABA and the world of a university and academia, it is 2 different worlds. So there has to be a dance with the VCS coordinator has to understand the dance between the ABA world and university and academia, and to be able to get the coexistence between the two, between ABA and that academia piece, and make sure they can coexist, and to ensure that the university is able to meet the standards of ABA. And it's a lot of work because the standards of ABA does not necessarily just align perfectly with university academia jargon and terminology. So there is a fine dance there. And so to be able to marry the two to come together, it does take a bit of finessing. And based upon that skill set, there's a lot there. So with FAMU and with this project, being able to come in and then having Dr. Slater-Sarah being able to come in, and she understands, of course, the culture of FAMU, and then to be able to take the ABA world and university and academia and culture of FAMU and to marry this triangulation together has been outstanding. So it's really individualized to FAMU. I mean, it's been extraordinary to sit with her and to work with her and to learn from her and to understand how how HBCU works, and to be able to just to bring this together. I mean, Dr. Slater Sarah, do you want to speak to, with you being a psychologist and understanding the HBCU piece and the ABA piece, would you like to
Yes.
speak to that and what
Yes.
your perspective is?
Sure. Yes, I absolutely agree. When we think of the world of behavior analysis, it is a unique and very nuanced field. So being able to effectively pair that with the culture of a historically Black college and university is a unique and a very delicate balance. It requires understanding both sides of the reality, and unique to actually the Florida A&M University psychology program is an African-centered focus. So not only are we finding this balance of ABA and academia separate from the world of providing clients that one-on-one service and engaging their families, we actually also are addressing the needs of students who have to learn that field, but then we want to be able to marry with that the cultural perspective. So family psychology is very much an African-centered program. You'll find that it is the premier African-centered program in psychology in all of the world. People come to our program internationally to major in psychology because of its unique emphasis on African-centered ideology. So we have worked very diligently, again, with the help of Dr. Crump, to understand how we marry these fields. And it's so much thanks to Tia for being able to see FAMU as the place to kind of make and actualize, make this thing happen. But it is a unique balance. And I just, the team is just really, really very, very strong. Ms. Bradley, definitely with all of the energy and willingness to put in work. We have worked so well in kind of braiding this reality of HBCU and its African-centered ideology. And we're still building a lot of strong and a beautiful, graceful energy that's going into this work. And I'm ready to see it, actualize. We're talking about launching fall of 26. So it is still a lot of work to be done. And we're also very thankful for all of those volunteers who have put in time and consideration for the launching of the program.
That's awesome. And so with sort of that theme in mind, and how FAMU is really well known for that African kind of centered studies, how is this program going to differ from other ABA VCSs beyond being at an HBCU? What's going to make this one unique?
Yeah, I can touch on that, and Dr. Crump too. Dr. Crump and I are developing the curriculum along with Dr. Slater Sarah and some of our volunteers. We are really focused on the global perspective of disability and autism and neurodivergence. With the master's program being connected to a community psychology master's, it really opens up the research opportunities and the dissemination. We are not here to focus on, hey, let me teach you how to do ABA with just the autism population in westernized society. We are here to say, hey, here is how you apply the science of behavior analysis in all of these different areas and focuses. So in the undergraduate program, we have a class specifically on behavior analysis and all neurodisabilities. And that's going to look at Down syndrome. That's going to look at intellectual disabilities, both in the Western culture, but also globally. FAMU has a lot of international students. And if we didn't look at that global perspective, then we may be holding out or denying someone who really could understand the science. So one of the things that Dr. Slater Sarah and the team has committed to is in every semester of each course, there's going to be at least 2 weeks, if not more, and most likely it's more because we embedded in everything of culture, that cultural perspective in what we are doing. And so I know, being in Florida, that brings its own challenges in how we word that in different things.
Yeah.
But I have, we have become a master of word and language development. I don't know if you want to add anything there.
In the field of ABA, one of the things or key areas of emphasis tends to be around the area of ethics, but also cultural competence. And whatever language we would put it in. So it's very unique for Florida A&M University to be able to offer a very unique perspective inside of a very unique lens that actually fits this global understanding of what behavior should be. Because behaviorism tends to be, and the ideas and components of behaviorism tend to be normed on white male theories, white male perspectives. So when we enter into the home environment, it comes from that specific model that was developed or created. So we're just able to broaden the perspective, like Adrian said, more globally. And then that allows us to be able to address the needs of not only unique people in their home environment, meaning culturally unique or religiously diverse, but we can also provide a perspective to students to understand if they are conducting research, to broaden their research theories, to include a more diverse cultural perspective and kind of engage the field differently, which is an area that ABA found as an area of deficit. So we're just filling that gap. And that's where the research will come from the Department of Psychology at FAMU as well. And I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that.
Well, I was going to say, Tia, to discuss our practicum focus in the agency partnerships.
Okay, so to kind of what Adrian said, as you can tell, like these three ladies are strong in academia. That is not my strong suit. So I've been staying in my lane, sticking to like the operations piece of it. And then that part that Adrian said, where we want to make sure that we provide these students with practicums. Obviously, we have had a lot of organizations reaching out to us wanting to be those practicum sites, a lot of national organizations. So making sure that we can provide our students with the resources that they need to kind of get into it as soon as they hit the real world. I think a lot of the things that we face, and you all know, is that people can go through the coursework and not have any of the hours done, nor any of their practicum hours completed. And so we want to make sure that with our students that they don't run into these issues, because then you're stuck out there just working, 30 hours to try to get your hours. And so I've been diligently kind of working with the team to bring to them, organizations that are in alignment with what we stand for, because, we're not going to take any and everyone, and seeing if there could be potential partners with us for the practicum and be able to honestly provide jobs to these students immediately as soon as they're graduating, as soon as they take that test and pass as well.
The second secret word is homecoming.
Yeah. I also think it's important for universities and practicum sites to be in communication with each other, especially what we're seeing out in the field. Many BCBAs are like, well, this is what I went over in my university program. They get to the practicum site and it looks entirely different. And with the curriculum development that we are doing, we are being very meticulous and very thoughtful as to how this is going to be applied out in the field. And so making sure that we have agencies that are also willing to kind of work with us very intimately to ensure that what we're teaching in class is also being executed and manifested out in the field as well.
And I think also are in alignment, like I said earlier, with our values and our mission of what we're doing, right? We are being very meticulous at the organizations that we're looking at to partner with, right? Because we all know that there's some organizations that are just in it, for the wrong cause or may not be in alignment with what we're doing. So being very, thoughtful and intentional about the practicum sites that we're offering the students.
All right, let's bring Dr. Crump in.
Yes, I love this. I love this conversation because I want to draw it back. We're talking about the practicum and looking at outward and looking at what we're going to do to make it real and the application piece. But let's bring it back. I'm going back to academia and let's bring it back to making it real for our students, because keep in mind, as an associate professor, I want to make this real and the application piece to the students. So what can we do in that classroom? What can we do to make it come alive, the content come alive to the students? And what do we want when it comes to behavior? We are always very quick to tell everyone else what to do. We want to change we want to change our children. We want to change our pets. We want to change our spouses. We want everybody else. We want to take these strategies and apply it to everybody else. And I remember sometimes going into a classroom and I'm coming in and teachers will say, well, how can you change their behavior? And I would say, I forgot my magic wand today. It's broken. And we always want everyone else to change, right? But when was the last time you changed your own behavior? When did you use the ABA principles on yourself to be able to get out there and work out? During COVID, when was those times that you said, you know what, I'm putting on too much weight, I need to stay out of the pantry? When did you use those ABA principles on changing your own behavior? So with this program, I want to make it real to students with the content. So really making sure, looking at that single case design and having students increase their study skills and decreasing those maladaptive behaviors that we all do as students, procrastination, not reading the Cooper book, or just being able to do those things that we know we need to do. So looking at students and them understanding their own behavior. Ouch. How hard is it to change behavior? So what this does is it also allows the student to make the application piece of being a student and studying. Oh, I decided to go on party this weekend instead of studying and preparing for that exam that's coming up. So really making that understanding and making it real for our students so that they're understanding their own behavior and collecting data on that. So that's what's making it real with this content. And that's what I really strive as a professor, as a behavior change agent, to make it real. Yes, we can do all the application out there, but can you make it real right here? And I think that really helps when it comes to behavior practitioners in the future when they're looking at their families, looking at parents, looking at students, when they're looking at their clients. Yeah, I know. It's hard, isn't it? And it becomes more real when it comes to looking at parents and being able to say, yeah, it's hard to change behaviors. I know. I get it. It's hard. So that's what I want to make real. And that's when we really have the ethical piece. And when we have that autonomy, when we can put ourselves in someone else's position to say, I get it. So that's really what we're doing here at FAMU and with this program. So that's what I wanted to say with the application.
I love that. What have been some of the considerations, I guess, for international students? I've had the privilege of interviewing behavior analysts and behavior analyst hopefuls in over 60 countries in the world, and some of these countries, there's really not a lot of services, there's not a lot of funding, and so I imagine there's going to be a few more hurdles when it comes to sort of, either providing services for international students to even be able to sort of afford the program, and then for coming up with practicum opportunities. Can you talk a little bit about the international side of things?
Yeah, I can start there. I think the unique part and the fun part that we have the opportunity to, especially because we're brand new, we're just getting started, is that some of these barriers we can find real long-lasting solutions with. You talk about funding, you talk about practicum sites and being able to find jobs and things like that. And so with the BACB certification only really being able to be used really in the United States and Canada, but I felt like I saw something that was coming out that maybe Canada was going to be no longer
We're close, yeah.
close in a second. Okay. So I think the other unique thing that we want to do is work with, the IBAO, work with some of these other international certification boards that are developing and going to continue to have to be developed because disability is everywhere, but the science can be used everywhere. I was just at the BMBA Summit. Shout out to Black Men in Behavior Analysis Summit this past weekend. Tia and I were there, and one of the RBT panels had somebody who was I believe he was from Nigeria. And he was asked, what got you into this? Because there aren't any ABA, centers and autism clinics in the entire country of Nigeria. And he comes from an area that was just very war driven, had a lot of civil violence and conflicts going on. And he wanted to use behavior analysis to analyze behavior and data collection to make decisions on better public policy for his country and his. And so I think when we think about what we're going to put into place to help international students, there's funding, there's jobs too, but it's also going to be a different way to combat challenges that are happening at home and making sure that we're creating partnerships and connections and networking with individuals that can have an influence there. I think with this community psychology and the different classes that we have set up, we are not just an autism focus, right? And we're not just a task list focused program. And we really are getting back to the heart of what Skinner and even some past behaviorists that, may not have been in more of the westernized behavior analysis are going to be bringing into play, both at the undergraduate and graduate levels.
And I think to kind of piggyback off of what Adrian said regarding those partnerships, when we talk about the issues of financial struggles within students, that is the goal of the partnerships, right? Like some of these organizations that we tend to partner with, whether they're either providing some aid to the student or providing things at a discounted rate, that is one of the goals when we're looking at these partnerships. Are they in alignment with us trying to create easier route for the student financially to be able to succeed?
I would
Yeah, I
add
love
just
that.
one of the things that I found very unique or I really appreciate about this team in particular. I believe Tia established a scholarship or helped to establish a scholarship by the BMBA organization. So FAMU was actually able to show up at the conference as well and serve on the scholarship board and being able to fundraise. So we always need the support, and our international students need a lot more support because they're unable to work in the United States. So we want to be able to provide them with the space to be able to address their needs, understanding that we don't want to limit our work and research just to, although it's a very large bulk of the field of applied behavior analysis, but just to autism, we want to give space and room for other areas of research that students might be interested in. But I found international students actually very interested in doing exactly what you all said, going back to their home communities and addressing the needs of disabled people in their community. If we can kind of nestle all of that into support packages financially, which is one of the things that we were offered from BMBA. We still have some official stuff to do to lock that scholarship in. But if we could nestle that into overall position of nurturing and support for students, we can ensure their progress and their success by making sure they have jobs in the future, because that's a part of the metrics that will be evaluated on, making sure students get jobs after they graduate, after they pass the test and then get a job. We want to make sure that we are folding all of that in as a component of success at the university program.
That's great. I love that. There were a few references to research, and I know from previous interviews the history of behavior analysis and psychological research has been very white-centered. I had Dr. Evan August on a while back, and he wrote a nice paper on the history of Black psychology and really educated me on that in terms of kind of how it was basically, he described it as a lot of the diagnostic approaches. So how do we come up with the pathological labels that's where our subjects might have been sort of more marginalized and coming from some of these groups. But then when we were looking at treatments and supports, for the most part we were looking at white folks as the participants, and typically the communities and whatnot. And of course, predominantly white institutions is where all this research is kind of happening. Obviously, it's early days. I'm curious about a little bit more about the vision for research in this program, and how we might be able to address sort of some of those pieces, because we're definitely, if there's one thing where ABA has really dropped the ball, it's in culturally responsive studies, participation in communities, inclusiveness. For a field that's all about including people more in the community, we could do a lot better job in our research.
Yeah. Two parts to that for me. One, inherently accessibility and awareness is going to bring about more research and innovation in communities of color. And an opportunity for improvement is that we were not bringing behavior analysis to the areas that could change, their community. With Savannah State being the only HBCU that had an undergraduate program at that. Shout out to Marquis. Our dissemination and our awareness for the majority of Black and Brown individuals that are attending HBCUs and things of that nature was inherently nothing, right? So one, I think bringing the awareness and bringing the opportunity to our community is going to inherently increase that research. But one of the very first conversations that we were having, and the benefit of having a community psychology program, is community-based research is embedded in that master's program already, and the dissemination with that. I was having a conversation with Dr. Jamila Watson, and she does a lot of community-based research and bringing in what does the community need, and then how can we use the science to improve upon that. And so Dr. Crump will be able to talk a little bit more to the capstone and the thesis that our master's students are going to have. But Dr. Linwood, he is actually the program director out of Queens College in New York. You talk about, why do you get a master's? Why do you go get a doctorate? The master's really focuses on the understanding, the evaluation, and the application of behavior analysis. What we're kind of hoping is, and many FAMU students go get to their doctorate, the creation of theory and philosophy. And so if we introduce them first in that master's, what are the opportunities and the possibilities if they continue on into their doctorate program that will create for FAMU students, but also for Black and Brown communities in general when it comes to the research of ABA and behavior analysis.
Before I even jump in, Dr. Slater Sarah has an outstanding conference that she puts on every year. And I think that Dr. Slater Sarah would be excellent to speak to this with her research background and her connection with ABA. I was honored to be able to, and Tia and I were there at the conference that she held this year. Dr. Slater Sarah, would you like to speak on your research and how you're able to bring in ABA with the lens that you have with research and with your conference?
Absolutely. And thank you for mentioning that, because I actually, um, I didn't think about the conference. So FAMU psychology department is well known for our research emphasis. Yeah. So I just began publishing a journal in psychology. So we'll take the opportunity to use the journal to help, if it's accepted, publish articles related to pairing ABA with this cultural center perspective. And the conference that we have is known as the Black Psychology Theme Week. And throughout that week, we deal with this concept related to Black or African-centered psychology. And Evan August might have spoke a little bit about that theoretical perspective. But also embedded in that Black Psychology Theme Week, we have the Imhotep Student Research Conference. So what happens in the conference is that students provide very unique research and theoretical perspectives related to all things, but mostly cultural centered perspectives. We accept applicants from all over the world, again, internationally. We have students who will attend and present their research as it relates to kind of like the mission and vision of the FAMU Department of Psychology. So it has an African-centered emphasis, but we also address all areas in the field as it relates to mental health. It's interdisciplinary. So sometimes we have engineering students and things like that. But the goal is to understand how we advance research and engage research from a cultural centric perspective. And how would that research be used as a way to uniquely improve the state of African American or Black folks? And that is in line with the mission of Florida A&M University, the College of Social Science, as well as the Department of Psychology. So we have really innovative student theories, innovative perspectives, and research. And as faculty, we help to guide and push those theoretical perspectives to those students forward. And once we oftentimes will have those students who come and present as undergraduates become a part of our graduate program. So it has been very effective in helping us. And we expect to roll in the mission and vision of ABA in the ABA program into that conference so that we are able to really pull from the students who have these very unique and diverse theories and pull research and support in that academia field, support their research. So thank you, Dr. Crumpet. Really want to emphasize how important it is for us to understand this unique state that we are in, that we don't have a major connection to the field of applied behavior analysis and understanding richly a cultural centered perspective. So we hope to be the leader in that. We hope to do research and publication in that. And that will allow us to actually affect the field more consistently as it relates to the needs, not only of patients who may have come from a cultural background, but also just research and behaviorism overall.
Outstanding. And I think this is a perfect forum to be able, a perfect platform to be able to, as our students transition through the programs, to be able to have a platform for them to be able to speak on their capstone and to talk about their journey through the program and what their focus was or is on with their study, and their data collection, and to be able to speak to what their research is. So it's not only just going through the program, but to be able to have that research piece and to be able to speak on it, and then to also um, have that the publications for it. So I just think that this is outstanding. We already have the structure. We already have it all embedded here at FAMU. And so all we're doing is taking this ABA program and we are just dropping it here, and the infrastructure is already placed. So I think this is just dynamic. This is wonderful. It's as if FAMU already had us in mind with this ABA program. So being able to add this in, it's thank you. Thank you that FAMU has already had the structure and the infrastructure for us. So thank you, Dr. Slater-Sarah, for being able to speak to this. So the research is here. The components are here for us.
That's awesome. So we're looking at September 26th for starting. What are some of the kind of the hurdles left to climb so that we can make it to that date?
I'm not sure if Tia wants to add to this because we have such a wonderful university. It is an HBCU, but FAMU has gone about several changes. We have the blessing of having a female president who is now president of Florida A&M University. So we're excited to see what change she's bringing to the university and how she'll continue to support the programs that we already have in place. But it just so happens that the high transition time happened while we were working on developing the program. So some of the glitches that have happened has just been not necessarily limiting the support of faculty, because we actually have from the administrative side good support from our dean, Dean Matthews, which I mentioned earlier, and we also have good support from our provost Watson. She is absolutely wonderful. Really supports Florida A&M University, especially of the College of Social Science, in providing access to resources and things like that. It's just when the transition happened, there was a little slowdown in information, and we waited patiently for some information, things like that, for the course sequence from the state. Overall, though, we're moving, and we have good momentum. A very strong administrative team is the folks you see here, but we also have good support from the online platform as well. So Ms. Gavin has been magical. She's new, but she is our instructional designer, and she has been very magical in terms of her emphasis and focus on getting the program started. We just had a little delay in get it going. So we're confident and prayerful for the fall 26 launch. We've had students reach out. We've had funders, people who want to support the program, reach out. And if anyone wants to reach out in terms of having access, I'm sure we'll address that a little bit later. Awesome. I don't know if anybody wanted to add to that.
No, I think historically one of the issues that not just Florida A&M, all HBCUs have always had to deal with since the beginning of HBCU time is the lack of resources that we have, right? It's almost like, honestly, it's almost like we work with, the bare minimum, and we get things done, which is why I honestly feel like most of the students that go to HBCUs are so resilient, because we've had to endure that going through school. So when she talks about just, some of those barriers and she discusses them, I don't think it's just solely isolated to Florida A&M. I think that's part of the reason that these programs haven't been brought up in other HBCUs, because they have these issues. And so one of the good things about us honestly being first, when we talk about the overall goal and mission, which is aside from Florida A&M, it's really to get it at other HBCUs, that we can tell them some of the hiccups that we've endured. We can tell them some of the things that we have had to overcome in hopes that they don't have to kind of deal with that as well, or can at least forecast it to know how to deal with it.
Yeah, I think that, and have friends at the BACB, and, all love Jim Carr and Melissa and, everyone. However, I would be remiss to say that when the people were sitting at the table to come up with the standards and the requirements, of what is needed to start an ABA program at a university, they were not thinking about HBCUs. We were not a thought in their mind, let alone I still get asked, what does HBCU mean from the people that are making the decisions, right? We just had to say the definition for some people that are listening to this podcast that may not have ever heard of that. So I think I've had a big learning curve, and Dr. Slater and Dr. Crump have been so patient with me, and Tia have been so patient with me because I don't come from HBCU land. I also don't come from a land of, if I say I need this, I won't get it either. I'm a fighter in that way, and I've really had to learn what it looks like to not only develop a program, but specifically meet BACB and ABAI verification standards with our undergraduate program and what we have had to go through. You know, we talk about even just the fact that FAMU needs to have a full-time faculty that's a BCBA. Well, you know, we talk about how much do program directors make at a university compared to what they what they will make at an HBCU. And all of the work that we have done, just to be clear, has been all voluntary.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
None of them have been paid for this particular work for 4 years. So when we talk about the effort that it takes to start a program at a university that is very underserved, under-resourced, and meeting the expectations that ABAI and the BACB have in place in order to get a program started, it's very nuanced. And then you want to add in the political climate that we are in, and autism is the word of the day. And you know, us being in FAMU, being a very culturally responsive and focused university, there's a lot in there that could be a whole nother podcast. And I would be remiss to say that this has been an easy journey. And I know people have been hearing about this FAMU program for years. And some people can think that things weren't happening behind the scenes, but this has been a 4 years long project. And we have a launch date, and there's been a lot of learning and a lot of discussions that I've been having with other people to say, hey, if you want this somewhere else at another HBCU, this is what we got to do. And so I'm really grateful, actually, and I want to call them out, to APBA particularly. APBA developed an accreditation, is developing and developed an accreditation process for universities that is making ABA programs accessible at HBCUs and at other smaller colleges. And so I really want to make sure that I shout out Dr. Tyra Sellers. She was the beginning of this project. Kyle Skates, Dr. Jonathan Baker, and the new CEO of APBA, who is continuing to support this, Dr. Molly Dubois, who's the new CEO of APBA. And so really, you talk about barriers to infrastructure. APBA is trying to break down those barriers while having quality programs. And I am very, very grateful that they also see this vision.
Well, that's amazing. So slated to go next year, if folks want to sort of learn more or ask questions or support you folks, how can they find you?
So we're going to have more and more information coming out. If you were at the BMBA Summit, we had our table there where we're disseminating information. We're going to be getting our website and social media pages together as well. But we'll definitely leave all of our emails and QR codes that people can fill out to say, I want information on enrollment, or I want information on practicum site partnerships, or, you know, adjunct professor positions and things like that.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for the incredible work you've been doing the last 4 years. I'm excited to see this come to fruition. I've been hearing Tia and Adrian talk about it for quite a while. And Dr. Crump, Dr. Slater-Sarah, it was so great to meet you and kind of have you on the podcast. Adrian, Tia as well. Thank you all for coming on and sharing the story.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
The third secret word is community. Here are 5 episodes of Behavior Speak that you need to listen to. Episode 223, Building Community and Behavior Analysis with Dr. Jewel Parham. Episode 171, Empowering Black Voices in Autism Research with Dr. Brian Boyd. Episode 98, Black Liberation Psychology, a conversation with Dr. Evan August. Episode 79, Black Men in Behavior Analysis with Jaron Trotman. And episode 76, The Next Generation of Black Leaders in Behavior Analysis, Empowering Success with Adrian Bradley. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok and subscribe to our YouTube page at Behavior Speak. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.